Hi everyone. I wanted to upload a video and discuss the First Strike FSC less than lethal launcher as equipped as a personal defense weapon. This isn't going to be a video shooting a First Strike or anything like that. There's plenty of those on YouTube, so go check those out. This is going to be just sort of a discussion of the system itself, my personal experiences with it, the considerations that you may want to think about if you're thinking about buying one, and kind of what the technology represents. I think it's an important one for people who are concerned about their personal self-defense. So let's just kind of go over it. The First Strike system. This was actually my understanding. This is a cut down version of the Tiberius T8.1, which was originally designed to shoot mag-fed paintball, but it's a very, very well-made piece. This isn't a toy or junky in any way. It's very, very well-made. And the funny thing is when you combine something like this with modern-produced self-defense ammunition that's meant for these systems, less than lethal ammunition, you kind of have something on your hands. Now, I can't, obviously a gun is a gun and nothing's ever going to replace a gun. And if you need a gun is what you want, but a firearm. But, there are a ton. One could argue you're vastly more likely to encounter a self-defense scenario where a less than lethal tool or something that can gain compliance up to and including using it beyond just the intimidation factor. This does cut the profile of a firearm. You're much more likely to encounter something that would need something like this than a firearm. We actually, in my own town, we just had a shooting last night outside of a bar, and it was an older guy who shot a younger guy, and he's asserting self-defense, and the witnesses say the younger guy was kind of monstering him a little bit. And I'll tell you what, that old guy's life is about to change. He may go to prison, maybe he doesn't, maybe he gets sued, maybe he gets run through the ringer, but he shot the kid. And this is literally last night in my town, and this is an example where something like this may have made all the difference. So ignoring the philosophical discussions of less than lethal technologies for personal defense, I realize there's people out there that, they'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. And I get that, me too, but I'm also somebody that has a ton to lose. And when I travel on business, the bottom line is this is what I bring with me, because in my own life, the scenarios I've encountered have been much more likely to warrant something like this. So on to the tech talk. Number one, they're a little hard to come by right now, which is unfortunate. But I think that's just because we're in that weird COVID world where everything's hard to come by. Hopefully that'll smooth out, and they'll be back on the market soon enough. They're a little wider than a normal firearm, but as noted, they do cut the profile. If you point this at somebody, they're going to assume they're looking down the barrel of a big 45 or something. So that's what it has going for it. The magazines take an 8-gram CO2 powerlet in the rear, and they load up with 6 in the factory. These are getting a little hard to come by. These are the Tiberius T8.1 magazines. They use a 12-gram powerlet, and they take 8 rounds. The difference is these actually stick out of the barrel, rather the grip a little bit. But you get 8 rounds, and you can use 12-gram CO2 powerlets. That's important for a couple of reasons. One, more rounds is better. Two, 12-gram CO2 powerlets are cheap and easy to come by. You can get them at Walmart. These 8 grams are a little more specialty. And 3, when you tune the gun up for self-defense use, the larger CO2 powerlet is more likely to give you a higher FPS rating across the whole range of shots. So the 8-gram shots, you can kind of keep it to where shots 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are pretty good, but 6 is kind of starting to get weak. With the 12-gram, you can get it to where you're pretty good across the whole range. There's some discussion, you can tune it to where you're pretty good on shots 1 through 6, but you're going to have a bit lower FPS. Now, this is a 3D printed cover that actually can be installed on these T8.1 mags. I say this accessory is a pass. Don't get it. Just go ahead and accept the fact that it'll stick out of the bottom of the grip a little bit, and that's perfectly okay. The reason being, the way these things work is you load them by depressing this catch, locking it into place in the magazine, loading your rounds through the top, and then when you put this in to the magwell, there's a little nub that actually activates that and shoots the, puts spring tension on. So it's actually designed to be loaded in this fashion. I might not be explaining it too well. The Tiberius T8.1 magazines, when you put them in there, with it sticking out under, it doesn't actually catch on that thing that releases your mag lock, or whatever you want to call it, your spring lock. So you have to kind of flip it yourself. If this is on there, you can't do that. So the way you have to do it is you have to load the rounds under full spring tension, and they're a lot more likely to pop out. This little spring bar doesn't have a lot of bite. So I think this wasn't a very well thought out accessory. I'd say it's a pass, but I would definitely say, if you're thinking about this for self-defense, just get the T8.1 mag. If you're thinking about it for concealed carry, the factory 6-round mags fit flush, and they're a little easier to come by. Tuning these for self-defense, the O-rings that they come with are not necessarily meant for that kind of FPS. So Milsig makes a heat core O-ring. You're going to want one of those, and you're going to want to install it. The most important thing is the ammunition, and this is what you're going to want. It's Grimburg, less than lethal, 68 caliber. Balls are what Grimburg told me to use. They do make the ones that are shaped like First Strikes, so where they're a bit more conical and they're a little bit more like a bullet, which for shooting in rifled barrels, which this also does have. This has a rifled barrel. Some discussion on how necessary that is. I'll leave that for other people to debate. But the ball ammunition is much more reliable for, if your ass is on the line, and that's according to Grimburg themselves. So this ammunition, this is kind of the game changer. It's when you combine this with this is where you have something on your hands that, in a dicey situation, you could bet your ass on. These are being used right now in the marijuana industry, where because of the federal laws, they're not allowed to have firearms, but they have tons of cash. So that creates a really dicey problem, and they're having to look at alternatives for self-defense weapons, and these and, Vulcan M17s, equipped with the right ammunition and tuned up, are kind of what they're going for, because if you start nailing somebody with this, they're not going to keep coming. So the Grimburg ammunition it's heavy. So I have here these are the old plastic rounds that kind of people would, in the early days, I can't really open it with one hand, but these are like chintzy light plastic rounds that people used to call, less than lethal rounds or riot rounds. They're a world away from these Grimburgs. These are really well made. I actually had I had one kind of split, and this is in no way a defect of the product. I was working them very, very hard, and it hit a super hard surface after I had shot it against a hard surface about 10 times. So I had one kind of come open, but you can see they're a very, very hard, dense composite material, and that's kind of the secret sauce for these hitting as hard as they do. I forget, you're in the 30 plus joules of energy with a 68 caliber ball. The kind of impact that's going to have is going to be very wounding. You're going to injure them. It's like hitting them with a hammer. And they're less than lethal, but if you were to shoot somebody in the head or another really sensitive area, you could kill them. So you're definitely going to have to be careful with these. But they present an alternative for somebody who needs something that fills the role of something like a firearm, but without the lethality of a firearm. So this is a great technology. For anybody out there who just realizes that there's going to be times when you need something like this, where you're in that neither world between you don't want to go all in and shoot somebody with a gun, but you need to take control of a situation. You're being threatened. Things are going sideways. Um, yeah, like this is a technology I think that's important. And, I have no problem saying, mark my words, I have a feeling this sort of technology is going to evolve. I think you're going to start seeing major players, probably in the firearm industry, start issuing stuff like this. Um, Whether they use 68 caliber balls or not, I don't know. Whether they use something proprietary, but I think you're going to start seeing these used more often. But this is kind of the first generation of this technology in its modern form, and this is great. This is something you're going to want to have around. So just to recap, First Strike FSC, you will need with it a mil-sig heat core O-ring. You're going to have to install it, so you'll have to be a bit mechanically apt. They're not too complicated. But you have to be somebody who knows how to use an Allen wrench and take things apart and put them back together in the same order. Grimburg ammunition. Grimburg recommends the ball ammunition for self-defense use. However, there may be reasons. I use a Hogue grip because where I live in the south, it's very humid and my hands get sweaty. So I like that. All the other stuff, they make a bunch of other gadgets and widgets and stocks you can put on it, and sights and flashlights and lasers and all that. That's fine if that's what you want. But to just equip it in its basic configuration, you're going to need the mil-sig heat core O-ring. You're going to need Grimburg ammunition. And I would suggest getting the extended mag. But yeah, these are just my thoughts on the First Strike FSC. Hopefully these will become more available out there. For the people out there looking for this kind of technology to protect their homes and families or whatever. But yeah, just wanted to share my thoughts. Thank you.